What's up, guys? This video is going to be all about my fitness and nutrition journey, just so you know a little more about me and kind of realize why I ended up moving to Costa Rica and started eating raw beef and eggs. So with that, let's jump right into it. I really started working out in mid school. In about fifth grade, I used to be the fat kid. And the reason that was is because I stopped playing football that year and I just had no exercise during the summer. So I gained a bunch of weight over the summer because I ate the standard American diet as a kid. I ate chips, Rice Krispie treats, goldfish, Cheez-Its, Twinkies, Little Debbie snacks. I had all of that as a kid, and it was in our pantry, and I had free access to it. I didn't have to ask my parents to get a snack. I would just walk in and eat whatever I wanted. And that ended with me gaining probably about 30 pounds. So when I went back to school the next year, I was the fat kid in the grade. And I definitely heard about it from my peers. They would tell me that I got fat or tease me because I was fat. And I distinctly remember that. And maybe that's why I'm so addicted to fitness these days. It's because I was the fat kid and I never want to go back. But you know what? To be honest, I'd rather be addicted to fitness than be addicted to food or drugs. But anyways, after a year of being called fat, I got so tired of it. So in the next summer, going into sixth grade, I started doing like push-ups and sit-ups every day, 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups, and then as many pull-ups as I can do. I can't really remember how many I would get done, probably about 12 at a time. Then I went into mid school, lost all the weight. I felt so much better, so much more confident. And you can totally tell the difference of how people treated me when I was fat versus when I was in shape. Because I came back in sixth grade, the strongest kid in the class. I could always do the most pull-ups, the most push-ups, the most sit-ups. I don't know if your school, you had like those presidential fitness tests, but I was always on top of all those tests. I was always coming in first on all the tests except the mile run. I always hated long distance running. So I would literally just walk the mile run. But that's besides the point. But through mid school, it was pretty much the same. Sixth through eighth grade, I stayed in shape. I always took care of myself. I started playing sports again. So that naturally just kept the weight off and kept me active. But I still ate like shit. I ate the standard American diet still. My lunches were like Chef Boyardee ravioli or sandwiches with the bread full of seed oils and deli meat, mayonnaise full of seed oils on the bread, chips in my lunch every day. Uh, I I would have a little healthier breakfast just because my mom would make me eggs and bacon in the morning or yogurt. And yeah, it was the yogurt with sugar and artificial stuff in it. Through eighth grade, it stayed the same. But where my life really changed forever was when I started playing football in high school and we started our workouts in the weight room. Right away, I fell in love with the weight room. And something I love about weights is it's just between you and you, because before that, I used to play team sports. So you have to rely on other people to win. And weightlifting was the first time in my life where all the responsibility came on me. If you're either able to lift the weights or not. And it's so true what they say, the weights never lie. And I still remember my first workout, I started off benching 95 pounds with little 25 plates on each side. And it was so humbling because you look at the older kids in the grade and they're benching, they're warming up with the 45s, and you're like, damn, this sucks. But the thing is I never gave up. I knew what I wanted and I knew it would take a long time to get there, but I just stuck to it. And eventually by senior year, I was the strongest kid in my high school. I broke our power clean record for our high school. I had the highest bench, the highest squat. I won the strongest man on the football team, and I also had the fastest 40. And this just all came from dedication. I was the only kid on the football team who wouldn't drink during the weekends, or at least the only strong kid that wouldn't drink during the weekends. The nerds definitely didn't drink, but I was like one of the only, you could say, popular kids that wouldn't drink during the weekends. And I still remember my friends, they would be like, dude, how are you making so much progress? I'd be like, man, I am not drinking. And what you guys have to understand is alcohol is literally a toxin. So when you ingest that into your body has to start removing that toxin rather than repair your muscles and go into protein synthesis. And also, everyone on my football team, they would only lift for summer workouts and then during the season. But then after that, no one would be in the weight room. So after the football season, I was literally the only football player in the weight room working out. Everyone else was messing around with their girlfriends at the park or smoking cigarettes or throwing dips. But I just knew that that was never going to take me anywhere. And if you're out there in high school watching this, something I would really recommend to you is do not get tied down to a girl. You are not going to marry that girl that you are dating in high school. I promise you that. I know no one who married their high school sweetheart. And all of those are just distractions. Like when you grow up, are you going to remember your accomplishments that you had in high school through sports? Or are you going to remember the times you had with your high school girlfriend? I guarantee you it's going to be your accomplishments. Had to switch up the mic. I was cutting off the circulation in my finger. Let's get into my nutrition through high school. So in high school, I was your basic gym bro. I was watching Rich Piana, Callum Von Moger. Those are my favorite bodybuilders. And those guys really brought me into the supplement world. And I fell for everything. I was the kid who bought the newest pre-workout, the newest creatine. Like I remember every other month, a company would create a new creatine with a new delivery method. So you would get all the creatine. I remember there's like Cre-Alkaline or creatine HCl. I would buy it. As soon as an influencer would tell me that something would benefit me, I would go out, hand the supplement shop my money, and I would take that supplement. My supplement counter in high school on my dresser was full. It was a whole dresser just full of supplements. Protein, creatine, vitamin B, vitamin E, what else? Pre-workout, glutamine, L-carnitine, you name it. And I'm still really bitter about this today because my parents would not buy my supplements for me. I had to work a summer job to get the money for the supplements. So I was a lifeguard working probably about 8 hours a day. And I think I would get maybe like $500 every 2 weeks. And I'd have to save that up through the summer. And then that would have to last me all year long for my supplements. And I would just run through that money. Like I was at the GNC or the vitamin shop every week, just buying whatever I could because I thought that was the secret to gaining muscle. And it did work. I was the strongest in my high school and on my football team. However, it wasn't the supplements doing the work for me. It was just my dedication and me being in the gym because my diet at the time was exactly the same as the bodybuilders. I did chicken, rice, and broccoli. Let me take you through my whole diet. So in the morning, I would start off with 2 hard-boiled eggs, and they were the white eggs. I would just eat whatever my mom bought. And then I would have oatmeal, Quaker Oats oatmeal, and throw peanut butter full of seed oils in that oatmeal. Um, and that would be my breakfast. And then throughout the day, I would eat peanut butter from the jar as a snack. Literally all day long, I would just eat a jar of peanut butter because you all hear that myth that peanut butter is high in protein. Look at the back of peanut butter. It legitimately has no protein in it. And this is just another lie I fell for and I'm still so bitter about because I was just filling myself full of seed oils and really getting no benefit of it because I was doing it for protein. Like you're better off just eating more hard-boiled eggs. Then I would get to lunch. I would eat my chicken, rice, and broccoli. If I didn't have rice, I would eat quinoa. And I would suffer through lunch every day. I'd have to dump so much hot sauce on my meal just to get through it, or mustard on the chicken. And I still remember it was like suffering every day eating that food. Because the thing is I was so hungry after the meal. And that's because you're not getting any micronutrients from chicken, rice, and broccoli. And your body's going to keep asking for food until you give it all the micronutrients it needs. That's why you can eat a whole bag of chips and never get full. Is because your body's still like, hey, I need some micronutrients here. Give me some red meat. Give me some eggs. And if you don't give it that food, then it's not going to tell your brain that it's full. And then immediately after lunch, I would down a protein shake every day. Because again, I thought that was the secret to nutrition. I thought that was healthy. And then I would go the rest of my day eating more peanut butter from the jar. I'd go into the weight room after school, lift weights, down another protein shake. And if it was during the football season, immediately after practice, I would down a protein shake. And then I would just go home and eat whatever my mom made me. My mom made good food. Like, I'm not going to lie, she made it from scratch. But I know for sure she was cooking with seed oils because she still does to this day. And no matter how much I tell them, they are not listening to me on the seed oils. And that may just be something you guys are going through too. But what you have to understand is our parents grew up in a different generation and they're more trusting of doctors and the science. And if it's on a grocery shelf for them, they're going to eat it. They think that anything in the grocery store is going to be safe for you to consume. Don't be too hard on your parents, guys. Lead by example. Show them how you cut out processed food and seed oils, and then they'll see you working hard, cutting that stuff out, and they will follow. And something I still remember from high school is after about 3 years of protein shakes 2 times a day, I actually became allergic to whey protein. One day after football practice, I downed my shake and immediately I got the bubble guts. My stomach was like growling and I was like, oh no, I think I'm getting sick. And then 2 minutes later on our drive home, I literally opened the window, throw up out the window. And now I thought I was just sick, like with the flu or a stomach bug. So I continued to drink protein for about 2 weeks and throwing up each time, like not realizing I had an allergic reaction to that protein powder. Because in my mind, protein was healthy. So there was no way it could be making me sick, right? Like all my favorite influencers told me that protein powder is the way to go and that it's 100% healthy for you. Just another example of me living in ignorance. And that pretty much sums up high school for me, nutrition and fitness wise. And I'd like to tell you guys that stuff got better in college, but it got a whole lot worse. Now, the biggest thing that happens in college is I started drinking alcohol and I had unlimited access to fast food. This was the first time in my life I had complete freedom because in high school, even though my parents would feed me processed food, they would still tell me to avoid fast food. So they would never let me bring like home Taco Bell or McDonald's. So when I got in college and I was living by myself and I had a car and unlimited access to fast food, about every night I would go to Taco Bell. And now mix that with drinking 3 nights a week, and it was a horrible combination. I gained the classic freshman 15, and if you guys aren't from the States, basically what that is any kid who goes into college, they gain about 15 pounds of weight, if not more, just because in high school you go from playing sports all the time and just eating what your parents make you. And then you go into college and you have access to the college cafeteria, which is just high carb food full of MSGs. And not to mention you're drinking copious amounts of alcohol every weekend. And I was in a fraternity too. I was your basic frat bro. So by the time my first year of college ended, I could get through a whole bottle of alcohol by myself. And it's crazy to me looking back now that I used to drink a whole bottle of alcohol every weekend. And that was totally normal for me and all my frat brothers. We could all get through a whole bottle of alcohol to ourselves. And now in college, I was still going to the gym 5 days a week and training. And that's why when I get messages from kids in college saying, I'm too busy with school and work to hit the gym, it's literally just an excuse because I went to the gym 5 days a week. I still had a 3.5 and I was partying every weekend. I was like blackout drunk every weekend, but I still made it to the gym, even with my schedule. So is it that you don't have time or you're not prioritizing your time? And that's the benefit of being young. Your body rejuvenates and can handle anything you throw at it. So even though I was partying all weekend, I could still go to the gym and make gains. And again, my diet was not the best in college, but I was still eating your basic bodybuilder diet. So chicken, rice, and broccoli. I would meal prep every Sunday. It would take me about 3 hours, but I knew that would set me up for success the following week. It was just so much easier to grab my food, warm it up, and then I didn't have to worry about what I was going to eat. And through college too, I was still taking all the supplements. I was addicted to pre-workout. I couldn't work out without it. I was still taking protein. I laid off on all the rest of the supplements just because my money was going to alcohol now and not supplements. So I was mainly taking creatine, pre-workout, and protein. But something I always found myself doing, still eating this food, is I would get done with the gym and I would have extreme sugar cravings. Even though I was full of protein, I had all of my meals. Again, my body was still asking for more nutrients. But instead of taking that as a sign of I need to eat more nutrient dense food like beef and eggs, I just took it as a sign that my body needed sugar. And I would go and crush a bag of Skittles or a bag of gummy worms after a workout. But the thing is, I was still so active in college, walking to class, playing intramurals with my fraternity, that I didn't put on a lot of weight eating like that. I still was able to stay pretty shredded. Now, I was bloated because I was holding on to a lot of water weight just from all the candy and processed food I was eating and the alcohol too, but I was still able to stay in great shape. And things really didn't get bad for me until I graduated college and then I entered the workforce. So I had a finance job. I was working in the office 9 to 5, and now I would still meal prep my food. But on the weekends, I would eat like a pig. I would save the weekends as my cheat days, and that's when I would get fast food. So I'd eat Cane's, In-N-Out Burger. Basically, I told myself, this is your reward for working hard all week. You get to cheat on the weekends, eat whatever you want. And through this job, I was still drinking on the weekends, not as much as college, like nowhere close, but I was still drinking. And a lot of that came from just the job was so stressful and so meaningless for me that I needed that like escape from reality and just to like feel some dopamine. It was really all just to cope. After a few months of doing this, I gained 50 pounds of fat because the one thing that changed between college and when I was working is I wasn't walking to class. I wasn't playing intramurals with my friends. I was just spending all day sitting down. Like, think about your work day. You literally get up, you sit in your car, drive to work, then you sit at your desk all day. Then after work, you drive home sitting in your car, and then you go sit on the couch and hang out for the rest of the night. Maybe watch a movie, watch Netflix, watch YouTube, and literally no part of the day are you moving. This was just detrimental to me. I gained so much weight. I started to break out on my face. And this is when I knew something had to change. So this was when Paul Saladino was still the carnivore MD and he only did the carnivore diet. And I adapted the carnivore diet. So I would eat 12 eggs every day and then about 2 pounds of meat every day. And this was great because I wasn't full throughout the day. But what I realized is it just wasn't sustainable because I could stay strict carnivore for at max 3 months, but I was still getting those sugar cravings. And a lot of carnivores will tell you that your sugar cravings go away, but mine just weren't. And I also noticed that I couldn't hit like that extra step in the gym. I couldn't get that extra rep. I wasn't gaining muscle. I wasn't pushing more weight every week. And even in college, when I was eating like shit, I was still able to make progress, gain more muscle, and push more weight every week with constant training. And then Paul Saladino went animal based. And I admit, I was a total Paul Saladino stan. Anything he would have told me, I would have just followed like it was a religion. So I was like, hey, I'll try this animal based thing now. He has a lot of good things to say. Like, humans were eating carbs like fruit and honey. We weren't just eating meat all the time. So when I implemented fruit, that's when I noticed that my diet was sustainable. I didn't have to have cheat meals or I didn't give up on the diet. It was something that I could actually stick to because I was filling those sugar cravings with fruit and honey. Because cravings are your body asking for something. Now you have to determine whether it's actual craving or whether you're just hungry, because a good thing you should use is the protein test. If you're hungry, will you eat protein? And if you don't want protein, you're probably not hungry. Animal-based changed my life. It made it more sustainable. I was able to stay in shape year round. Because before I went animal-based, I would use carnivore as like a quick fix. So I would stay 3 months on, lose weight, get shredded, put on more muscle, and then I would fall back into going into junk food, eating fast food. Then I'd get fat again. Then I'd have to do carnivore again. Then I got fat again. Then I went carnivore again. It was like constant up and downs, constant fluctuations. But then when I found animal based, it was actually something I could stick to. And that's how I maintain my physique today. And the weight training stayed constant throughout the years. I never switched up my training. So I really know it was the diet that changed my physique. Now, after a few years of lifting, I have realized like what exercises work better for me and how to design my plan exactly to me and my body and my goals to help me grow the best. Like, for example, in college, I would train like 8 to 12 sets, and that worked for me in college. But then after college, when I was in the workforce, that no longer worked for me. And it's because my muscles matured and they adapted to the 8 to 12 rep range. Now, when I train for hypertrophy, I always make sure I'm 12 to 15 reps because that's what my muscles need in order to get a pump. And I also always maintain heavy compound lifts in my workout just so I keep my strength. So anything with a barbell, I'll do 5 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 6, just so I keep my strength. So things like back squat, bench press, deadlifts, overhead press, I'm always going to do that heavier just so I keep strength. And what that allows me to do is build those strength muscles. So when I go into my hypertrophy workouts, I'm able to lift more weight every week and really push my body to grow. And that brings us to where we are at today. So now I'm primarily eating raw eggs and raw beef as my protein source. And this really all started when I began my animal based journey on Instagram. It's because I would always post about raw milk. Raw milk is huge in the animal based community. And a comment I got on one of my videos was, well, if you're drinking raw milk, then why don't you eat your beef and eggs raw as well? And I don't know if you guys know about raw milk, but basically the milk they sell in stores is boiled, and that's to cook out all the bacteria to make it safe for consumption. But when they boil the milk, that also cooks out a lot of beneficial enzymes and a lot of nutrients that are in the milk. And so I was posting about raw milk on Instagram, and one of the troll comments was like, well, if you're drinking raw milk, then why aren't you eating raw eggs and raw beef as well? And to be honest, I was like, they have a good point. Like, if cooking milk boils out essential nutrients and good bacteria, then what does cooking meat and eggs do? And it turns out it does the exact same thing. There are micronutrients in meat and eggs that are extremely heat sensitive. And when you cook them, you're destroying those nutrients or they boil out into the water. So first I started with raw eggs. I started doing 3 raw eggs every morning before my workout, and it really worked well because what I noticed before eating cooked food is during my workout, it would sit in my stomach like a rock and I would like burp during my workout, have indigestion, but not with raw food. And it was literally like a cup of coffee. Like anyone who has tried raw food, after you drink it, you get like a surge of energy and a surge of dopamine, and you really would just have to try it to know what I'm talking about. But basically, there have been studies that show that bacteria are in charge of producing dopamine in your gut. When you're getting that bacteria from raw meat and raw eggs, you are literally creating dopamine in your body. At the time of this video, I'm a little over 130 days only eating raw beef and raw eggs, and I've never felt better. I've never gotten sick. I've noticed that the digestion is much better. I literally chug 12 raw eggs before my workout and I go immediately to the gym. If I was to cook those eggs before my workout, I'd be sitting on the couch for like an hour or two trying to digest that food. And what you really need before a workout is protein. I see so many people just eating carbs before a workout, but the protein is what you need to heal your body during and after your workout. You do need carbs before and after your workout, but it shouldn't be your only energy source. And eating raw really just vanished my sugar cravings because I'm getting so much more micronutrients now. My body isn't giving me these crazy cravings, and it's really reset my dopamine and my taste buds, just because you realize when you cook food, cooked ground beef, you always have to put a sauce on it. You're always putting a bunch of spices on it. With raw ground beef, you literally just need like an onion in it or maybe some avocado and you're good to go. But on this diet, it's so much easier to stay lean. And I see a lot of people on Instagram doing this. They'll be animal based, but they're drenching everything in honey. They're eating like 8 oranges a day. And all these people are doing is replacing their processed food sugar craving addiction with honey and fruit. And while yes, that's a lot better, you're still not fixing the problem, because at the end of the day, sugar is sugar and it's going to translate onto fat on your body if you're not using that energy. And now, I'm not against cooked food, and all my one-on-one coaching clients, they only eat cooked food. However, I think that raw food is the next step in anyone's fitness journey, because once you actually try raw food and you see how much better your digestion is and how much more energy you have, you're just never going to want to stop the diet. Because one thing I was really struggling with before going raw was my caffeine addiction. So even on animal based, I switched to coffee before my workout, and I would still need caffeine before every workout. But when I started eating raw food, I no longer needed coffee. Like literally, the 12 raw eggs I eat every morning is enough to get me through my workout and get me through most of the afternoon without eating again. And I could never be 100% against eating cooked meat, because the truth is eating animal based with cooked food is a lot better than 99% of the population. And it works for a lot of people. And all my one-on-one coaching clients have made great progress just doing the animal-based diet. That's why I could never come out against cooked food. That's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions for me on animal-based, carnivore, or the raw diet, you can leave them in the comments below. And if you're interested in changing your physique, you guys can book a coaching qualification call with me. I'll leave that in the description below. But with that, I hope you guys have a great day, and I can't wait to answer your questions.